Entrepreneurship is quite lonely, but not in the way people think. It's not because you're working alone the late nights, the early mornings, but because you can't explain to people what it is that you're doing because they simply wouldn't understand. It's having the normal conversation in the kitchen and realizing that you can't get into it. There's no use getting into the pattern because you don't recognize patterns the same. You don't think the same anymore. Not better, not worse, just different. You've become something else. And so, out of this video, I want to break down why this happens, what people don't understand, and why you shouldn't expect them to understand to begin with. I'm not talking out of the left side of my butt cheek. I am CEO entrepreneur, founder of Legacy Africa, also a partner in Office Cube. And throughout this entrepreneurial journey, throughout these entrepreneurial ventures that I've started and failed and learned from and built back, built better, it's been a long and winding road, and throughout it, it shaped me and molded me into the person that I am today, not just in the way that I show up and express myself, but in the way that I think quietly to myself. And as a result, I found that, yes, indeed, there's a certain disconnect when it comes to the way you view things versus the way that a normal person would view things. I'll give you an example. Let's talk about a holiday week. People see time off, they see rest, they see a break. I see fewer working days. I see slower deals. I see lost momentum. Same situations, completely different lens. And so I'll give you a tiny example. I was having a conversation in the kitchen earlier this week, and during that conversation, next week is so it's a long holiday this weekend, and next week Friday is also a holiday. So the only proper working days that are available next week are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday, there's an event that I have to go to, which means for a good chunk of the day, and leading up to it, like literally from now, my mental bandwidth is partially taken up by those commitments that I know I have around that time. But in any case, Tuesday I'm booked, which means Wednesday and Thursday are the only days where I can get some proper work in terms of dealing with other people, unless you are dealing with a special type of individual that you've already built rapport with. Then you have more time to double down. You tap in during those down times. But if that's not the case, then yeah, if you're dealing more on an institutional level, if there are contracts to be signed, if there are things to be initiated, it actually becomes more difficult on a shorter time frame. And so I can't like I'm having this conversation, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, no, it's a freaking long holiday. I should have taken the other days, and then I could have been off the whole week, right?" Like that's literally what they said. At the same time, I was thinking, "Oh yeah, you're right. Freaking Monday and Friday are out, which means it's Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm like, oh, next week is terrible for business." You know, that's what I was thinking. And I can't expect them to share that same perspective, and I can't expect them to understand where I'm coming from with that. All right. A different thing to tap into is the when do you get paid question. And so you explain what you're doing. This deal leads to this, which leads to that, which leads to something bigger. And their response is, when do you get paid? And that's when you realize they don't understand the game because you're not playing the same game. And if they knew how it was played, they would have played it and they would have won. So I'm securing deals, building positioning, brand positioning of myself as an individual. These deals give me access to give myself on a personal level more capacity to be able to deliver on things for the clientele that's coming. I'm building pools of talent. These pools of talent are going to become the resources that I use to fulfill on these larger clientele. I'm securing this. I'm signing this deal. I'm signing that deal. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And the question becomes, well, when do you start making money from this thing? I'm like, so I'm busy talking to you about how I'm vertically integrating myself. I'm gaining access and distribution. I'm securing institutional longevity plays where if this week works out, like it's a thing where if this works out now, if we can get this to work and the money starts coming in, it will never stop because we've built proper assets of supply and demand. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, and you try and get into that conversation, but very quickly you find that, oh, you if you understood this game, you would be playing. And so I will be wasting my time getting into too much detail about what goes on where, how, why. Again, if you knew, if you desired to know, you would know by now. So we'll continue to shift. What are you building? So you're not chasing quick money, you're building systems, assets, leverage, and so that when the money comes in, it doesn't come once, it comes continuously. So when you're building an asset versus when you're capitalizing on a market, those are two very different timelines that you operate on, and they're two different value systems, uh, two different ways of operating, ways of thinking. When you're building an asset, you understand that when this thing is built, it is mine, no one can take it away from me, and I can gain from this asset perpetually. Whereas on the other side, if I'm capturing a portion, if I'm capturing profits from a market, from deals being made, etc., then my income only comes in when I do the certain action that precedes the payment coming through. And if ever that market were not to exist or were to shift or I weren't able to source, then that arbitrage doesn't exist. Versus when this asset solves a problem, fortunately, the problem solution cycle is never ending. You create a solution that creates another problem. You solve that problem, that creates another problem. You solve that problem, that creates another problem. And so that's why it is good, advisable to be integrated vertically, because you want to be able to produce the burger, but as soon as you've created a burger, now you've created a fry problem on fries. Now I have a burger and fries. Now I want a drink. Now I want dessert. So if you can produce all these things as and when they are needed, you can increase the lifetime value per customer to a certain extent. So those are the paradigms, those are the levels. That's the point of leverage. The points you're thinking in terms of leverage, in terms of nodes, in terms of how can I access, instead of accessing 100,000 people, how can I access one person who has access to 100,000 people? How many people have access to 100,000 people of my perfect customer? How can I access those people? You knock those nodes down, and it has a trickle down effect. So when you're dealing with people and you're talking in terms of deal structure, asset, leverage, they're talking in terms of pay horizons, timelines. You are working, but I don't see the result of your work. I don't see the cash influx hitting in the short term that validates, where the marketplace validates that you're doing the right thing. It's like, why is marketplace validation to you only quantified in terms of um, monies transferred from one party to another? Why is that the only um, recognized transference of value or validation from the marketplace? People are putting their reputations on the line. People are putting entire systems on the line. People are putting, things at jeopardy. There are legal things at play. There's so many um, dynamics. There's so many dynamic elements to these deal structures that makes you understand that, oh, this only happens when the marketplace is taking you seriously. And so when you're operating from that lens and someone else is operating from the lens of the marketplace is only taking me seriously if I'm getting paid now, rather than am I building something that can get me paid big later and get me paid forever? Paid now, big later. And when you build the things that get you paid forever, then when the big wins do come, they're a cherry on top and not a starve or feast type of system, type of setup. You know, I can akin it to you being a long distance runner, swimmer, a triathlon athlete, an Ironman athlete, trying to explain the Ironman to a sprinter. Oh no, yeah, we come hot out the blocks, we sprint up until a certain point, hop on a bike, we cycle. After you're done cycling, we hop in the pool, we swim. After you're done swimming, we get back out, we keep running. Like, well, yeah, I just run full burst from paycheck to paycheck, and then somewhere along the way, I hit a lull, and I start eking my way out and trying to maintain the gas, maintain the pace, just to get to the finish line. And I get to the finish line, boom, next paycheck, and then now I'm out, I'm running out, running out, running out, running paycheck, sprinting paycheck to paycheck. Versus I'm just trying to, I'm taking my jog. What are you doing now? Oh, I'm jogging. Yeah, no, I'm jogging. I'm just trying to get to the water side of things because I excel in the water, and that water season is really for me. Boom, 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 the water. What are you doing? I'm swimming, bro. Weren't you jogging? Yeah, I did jog, and then as I jogged, it allowed me to set up this, which is setting up that, which in the next 6 months is gonna boom, 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 boom. It's like, oh, you're talking in terms of 6 months, bro. I'm dealing with things a month at a time, a day at a time, a week at a time. And what I notice is that the longer and longer you can stretch out the time horizons in which you operate, the bigger you can win at the end of them. But you must be willing to accept one thing and understand one thing, and I think we'll touch on it a bit later as well. When they say today that the marketplace isn't validating your idea, they'll feel like they're right. In a week from now, they'll still be right. In a month from now, they'll still be right. 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, perhaps. But they're wrong. They're 99% wrong. They're 99% right, 1% wrong. But when they're wrong forever, which means you're right. Meaning, every single time they say this isn't the one, every single time they say you're wasting your effort, it will look that way until it completely doesn't. Compounding, consistency never looks impressive in the beginning. Only in the end, only when it starts to compound does it start to look impressive. And so my 2 cents is keep pushing, keep pressing forward, keep making, creating. Because it will come out in the end. Yes, design intelligently, manage cash flow diligently, stay small enough, long enough, and you'll be big enough, soon enough, all those things. But understand, when you're on the way, you're on the journey, they don't understand you because they're not wired the same. They don't think the same. They don't treat relationships the same, money the same, time the same. So don't expect them to understand your vision. They literally physically do not have the tools to decode what you're saying. Not yet. Maybe not ever. So it feels isolating because most people are wired for stability, predictability, immediate reward. Entrepreneurship is uncertainty, delayed reward, and long-term thinking. And so when you try to explain uncertainty to someone who seeks stability, when you talk about delayed reward to someone who wants immediate reward, you talk about long-term thinking to someone who wants everything to be predictable. You're like, no, listen, the marketplace, it shifts, it's dynamic. Here are the things that are true. Here are the things that are untrue for us at this point. Here's what we think we can do. Here's where we exist. You're talking in terms of many moving dynamic parts over a long time horizon. And these people are used to stiff, rigid, I do this input, I get this outcome, and that's how I live. Two very, very different dynamics. So expect that to be a part of the loneliness of the chapter. And realize that ultimately you're not going to be able to talk to people the same. They're not going to understand you. They're not going to resonate with you. It'll be very difficult for you once you begin to notice these things about yourself, once you begin to notice these things happening around you, you will find yourself in moments where you will think of things and you won't say them. Not because they don't make sense, not because they're not true, but because you know that you're not speaking, you would be preaching upon deaf ears. You will try your best to explain it. You will visually illustrate it. It won't make sense. And I heard someone say once, um, if your mom understands what you do for a living, you don't make enough money. Closer. Entrepreneurship is lonely, not because you're alone, but because you're playing a different game. And so don't expect everyone to understand because they're not supposed to. Just make sure that you understand where you're going. If you ultimately understand what shifts you're making, why you're slightly adjusting this, you're pivoting on that, you're staying true to this, you're boom, 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 boom. You know, you have a plan laid out, you have a time frame laid out. If you have these things that are very concrete and very real and allow you to stay grounded, the sky's the limit, my friend. The sky's the limit. Use all the tools that you have at your disposal, use all the people you have at your disposal, and win. In a world full of excuses and people who have 1,001 reasons why they can't do certain things, you continually show up and give the reasons and be the reasons why you have to. You have to succeed. You have to make it. Thank you for watching. If you're an entrepreneur, Legacy Africa is in the description box down below. If you did in fact enjoy it and you're not an entrepreneur, or you are, whatever the case, please hit that subscribe button. I've been Sage, standing on business. Signing out.